So welcome everybody. Today is the last session of our Intro to Qt series. So we're going to finish up our interface basically for that series. So I'm Jessica, I'm a senior software engineer. I've been mostly working in the movie industry and I've been using Qt for the past 10 or plus years. So before we start, a small refresher, you can find the code for this session under this repository over here, or you can add to Women Who Code repository. And you can clone it and create your environment with VR. Please know that won't work on a Mac if you have a silicon chip. You will need to use PySide 6 for it, and I think you may have to upgrade NumPy as well. So for this session, the code is available under session 5. But since that's the last session we're going to do, you can also go to the curve filter directory, which has the funnel application. So we want to go from here, as you remember, to here. That's our mockup, and that's what we want to do in the end. So now we're going to go into our code editor. So on the previous session, we stop here. Basically, we have a working interface where we can load and save our custom curve file. We can change the method to filter the curve, and we can change the intensity of the filtering. What we want to do for this session, we want to mostly display a preview of how the filtering will look like on our curve. And we also want to change the look of the slider over there. So we're going to start with the slider. So that's the starting point is where we left off at session 4. If you want to follow along, you can just open the last the UI.py file in session 4. That's where we are right now. So first we're going to start at some colors for sliders. So we want to have a custom border color. We want to have a color we want to create a gradient basically from low to high, so from green to red. And we want to have a custom background color as well to make it slightly darker than the rest of the interface. And we want to have another color for the handle. Obviously, I put them here for simplicity, but you can actually put them under the theme if you prefer, and code them from here. If you want to have a light and dark theme, that's something that you may want to do as well. So if we start right now, we can go back to our slider, which is here. So we have our curve intensity slider that we've done. So far, we just generate from sliders. We don't do anything. But what we want to do, we want to override the paint event. Like that. So when we do that, we're going to override the default paint event. What's a paint event? So anytime the widget get a signal to update or to repaint, meaning that you change something by code, like you do like set value on your slider or anything like that, it's going to emit a signal which is updates. The update will call the paint event. If you move your window, if you have a window, override part of it as well. So like if you have like your tools and you have a window will go in front of it, even like for an instant, it's going to cause the paint event again. And as the documentation say, for many, many more stuff, they don't mention what those many more stuff are. So, but it's mostly whenever some action happen, it's precisely like the name say, is to paint your widget, like what does the widget will look like. So that's very, very interesting for you because you can create your own widget. Like you can basically have it look however you want, as long as you know how to paint the widget, which is mostly dealing with shapes, like drawing lines, drawing points, drawing some like primitive like circles and box and things like that. So first, what we want to do, we want to create a painter. So that's basically just say, hey, I want you to paint something. That's a Q painter, and we want to have some anti-aliasing, so we set a render into it. That's optional. You don't have to do it, but it usually look a bit better. It might cost a bit more resource though. So that's something to keep in mind. So what we want to do first, we want to add a border to our widget. So I'm going to first execute that. So you can see that it's overriding the look. So you can see that the slider disappear from the UI. It's still there. We just overrode the paint event. So we overrode the default look of the slider. So now we want to create a border. So to create a border, we're first going to create a cube pen like that. We're going to set a width to it. Say Q, a good number for us. And we want to have, we want for it to be a solid line. So really, we really want to have a line. And we are going to set our color that we set before. So now if I execute that, you can see that we still don't have anything appearing. That's normal. We just created a Q pen. So we need to tell the painter to draw our pen. So we call painter and we do set pen like that. So then we see conceit. That's normal. Don't worry. We need to basically later on we need to make sure we paint stuff within the area of the widget. So a widget would have something called like a rect. So that's literally like the rectangle would define the drawing area of your widget. You also have something called a region, which is status specific, and we're not going to see it for this example, but a region will tell you which area need to be redrawn. That's very, very useful if you have something very complex to draw and you don't want to redraw everything. Mostly when you have a window will go over another window. You don't want to repeat your stuff, so you may work within just one region. So now we want to create a background color. So we, as you can see, we get the rectangle. So the area that we want to draw in because we just want to take the whole area of that widget and we want to set it. And that's why we need to basically on the so yeah, I'm trying to find where we define it. So that's why we set the value to 25 here. You can see we set a fixed value. So the idea is to basically not have something which is very thin, but have something a bit more chunky that we can draw and have like this for like boxy looking thing that we want to do in the mockup and to show the gradients a bit more nicely. So now what do we do that? what we want to do, we want to make sure that we still have some placeover for, if I go back, you can see here on the mockup, we want to draw like a chunker one, but we also want to make sure that we can draw a circle on top, which basically would be a bit bigger than our slider. So what we do, we get the height of it, and we remove a certain number of pixels from it. So just 6 because it looks good. Like that. That's kind of like a bit trial and error, unless you have like a very good mockup where you can like see how many pixels that you want to change, depending on how you work, basically. Now we want to get the center, and we want to kind of offset the center a bit. So we take the center and we offset it by 3, which is basically the inverse. Sorry, it's basically half of how many pixels we remove here. So the idea is to make sure that we center our background rectangle. So we're going to draw a rectangle, and we say, you know what, UI would be slightly smaller than the widget, which is like the drawing area that the widget can draw in. And then we're going to say, okay, I don't want you to be at the bottom. Just go to the center, and the center will be like the current center of the widget plus 3, which is the half of the 8 that we set here, the offset we set. So you can set the Y, you can set the X as well. So you can move things around if you want. And then we're going to basically grab the center, and we're going to move the rectangle that we just made to be these coordinates. So as you can see, yeah, we still don't have something, but that's normal. So what we want to do, we want to draw the rectangle. We're going to create a slider as well. So we're going to create a linear gradient, but let's draw it. So as you can see here, we set the painter to draw the pen. We need to tell the painter to draw our rectangle. So that's how you can draw things. You basically create shapes, create form or line and point, and you tell the painter to paint it. And as you can see, now it's showing up. So we have our pen here, which creates a nice border. And we have, though you can't see it yet, but we do have actually our rectangle here, like that. So now we want to add a small linear gradient. So that's not very easy, basically, because Qt have two linear gradients. So that's how we do it. So the way it's done is you tell where you want to start and where you want to stop. That's kind of like the coordinates, like start at X and at X value. Then what you do in that, we set a color at 0, so that basically will be the width of our rectangle, which is defined here. And we set a color to start from 0, which is would be our lower one, and the and one would be 1, which will be our high color. And then we just tell painter to paint the brush. So now you can see we do have our border, we have our Q-linear gradient that we just painted, and we have the background color. The order of which order you use is very important, and that's what we're going to see now. So we want to make sure that we draw the background rectangle after we draw our linear gradient. And I'm going to explain why it's important right after. But basically, the idea that we want to do, we want to have one rectangle, which is a Q-linear gradient. We have the whole gradient, and we want to draw a rectangle on top of it, which is going to follow where the handle is. So at the handle move, we expand this rectangle so we can hide part of the gradient. So to do that, we get the slider position. So because we inherit from QSlider, you can just grab the slider position like that. Then we get our background rectangles and width. And we're basically going to grab the position. So that's in X. We're going to multiply it by the width divided by 100. So that would tell you where to place our rectangle on the X axis. So you can see here we set the Y, and here we're going to set the X. So the Y was like, I want to be in the middle of the drawing area. But for the X, we want to have it wherever the handle will be. So we can't see it right now because we still need to draw the handle. Okay, so we draw the brush, which is set above, like I mentioned, and we draw our rectangle again. So now you can see we have the Q-linear gradient. We have one rectangle, which is here to draw this Q-linear gradient, and we have the other one that we move on the X axis, which have the background color. So that's kind of like how you can do it. You can see we can already move it. The handle is just transparent right now because we haven't drawn the handle, but you can see it working already. And now we want to draw the handle. So for the handle, we want to create like a cycle. So same again, we get the rectangle of the widget itself that will tell us our draw area, and we're going to derive the cycle from that. The reason we do that is so if you increase the size of your slider, it will always draw it bigger and bigger. So for that one, because we want to have a cycle, we want to basically set the width to be the height of the rectangle. Now we're taking the center of that rectangle. And we're going to also move it like we've done previously on the x-axis. So we set our x, and then we move on the center like that. And then we're going to put our brush under. So we don't see anything, and that's normal. The next step we need to do is to basically draw the ellipse. So when we do set brush, we basically tell the printer which which look you're going to use to draw the next element, like the next elements actually. So on that one, if we didn't set it here, it would use this brush over there. And then we just draw an ellipse. And now you can see we have our slider like that. So to summarize, basically, and the order is very important because you have to deal with the z-axis as well. Even though we don't deal with it in code there directly, it does exist. And you can actually set it if you want. But we need to make sure that we draw things, we need to be in front of the other, actually. So we basically make sure we draw the background first, which is our gradient, which was this stuff here. Then we draw our second rectangle, which is to basically hide part of the gradient. So as we move the slider, we just move this rectangle X position, as you can see here. And when we're done, we just draw a cycle on top. That's pretty straightforward, basically, and you can change anything you want. So if we actually change that one, you can see a bit more clearly about this for other rectangle and the brush over there. Okay, so now we're going to go toward the bit more interesting parts. That was an introduction to like the painter and the paint event. And how to use it basically to change the appearance of an existing widget, which is a very good idea to start with something which already exists and just change its appearance over like creating a brand new thing. That's what we're going to do next. So for the next one, we want to have we have our curve previewer. And basically what we want to do, we want to do something similar where we're going to override the paint event and we're going to draw our curve. Right now, there is nothing happening on the paint event because we are inheriting from the Q widgets, which doesn't paint anything. So to do that, we need to first go and to our curve previewer, and we want to add two more methods to it. We want to basically add a method to set the raw value, which are defined here, and we want to have the same for the filtered one. And as you can see, this one called the update method over here. So when you want to see when you set like a new either raw curve or filtered curve, we want the widget to update. So we want to refresh the appearance of the widget. So we want to paint it again. So now we need to set those values in our code before we start to draw something. So we can actually refresh those. So we're going to basically create some connection again. So let me just okay, so we want to create an update preview function over there. So we're going to put it, let's put it after this smooth curve. So we're going to call it update preview. And we can basically connect that function to any of our other widgets. So the slider, the method combo box, and the preserve edge checkbox. So you can see here that we have our smooth curve. And the reason why we've done this smooth curve like that was to be able to use it either when you save or during the preview. So we set our row value, which is our set when you open the curve. You can see we set the row value here. This one never change unless you open a new curve file. And then we filter those row value, and we get a new updated list of values that we set as the filter value. So now we want to basically call the set preview in multiple spots. So we want to create first a few connections in our init. So if we go back here, we can see that when the when the filter type combo box, so the method one change, we want to update the description. We're going to add a few more. So we want that when the intensity value change, so when the value for slider change, we want to call that function. Same when we change the filter type. And we also want to do it when our checkbox is changed. Yeah, like Stephanie mentioned, like if you have any, if you want me to slow down, let me know. If you have any question, feel free to put them on the chat and we can answer them later. Okay, so now that we have that, when we update our curve filter, under the hood is updating our curve widget. But we need to be able to draw something. And I want to mention that we want to also call the update preview during the show event. That's mostly done for demo purpose because we do have a preset list of value. Technically, you don't really have to because like the user will choose to open a file first with a curve and it will display the value. That was just done for demo purpose. So now if we go back to our curve here, we want to also create another event event override. So we go here. And in this case, we're going to do things slightly differently. We're going to basically create another function to draw a curve because we want to draw a curve, but most of these things can be shared between the row and the filtered one. So we want to have just one draw curve method under it. So we're going to create a painter event, sorry, a Q painter first to paint our curve. And we basically going to say, okay, you're going to begin to paint, and that's when the end happens. So you kind of like open the painter, do all of your operation, and then you just close it after once you're done with it. So that's slightly faster. And you tell the Q painter that you're done and you're not going to paint anything else. Then we're going to create a draw curve method that we're going to use to draw our curve. So let's start with doing it for our row curve over there. So first, we only want to draw it if we have more than two value. If you just have one, you can still draw it, but there is not a lot of interest into that. And we want to define some that's right. Like that. Okay, so we basically say that's going to be our pen, our brush, and our So the point pen is like how a point would look like on the curve. And the brush is to define the appearance of it. Then we have our line, which a pen which define the appearance of our line. In that case, since we just draw a line, we can just use a pen. So we're going to calculate basically the spacing on the x axis. To have something simple for this demo, we only deal with the y-axis of the curve. So we just define a spacing for the x, which is we take the window size basically. So we do a self parent. So give me the parent of these of our widget, which should be the Q widget, which is inside the Q layout above. We get the width, and we basically just split out all of our value to have something like sort of even. The idea that if you make the window a bit larger, it will basically keep the spacing even, and you can see our curve a bit more. So what we want to do, we want to first define our first point. So we just take the first point of our curve, basically. And we define the coordinate of the in x of our point. So we're going to set the pen, set the brush, like we've done before. So just to control the appearance. And we're going to do an ellipse. So we're going to draw a cycle again. I forgot to yeah, just trying to see if I forgot to close it. So yeah, begin, and I may have forgot to close it on the previous example. So we need to double check that. That's why it's important to basically start and your painter. You basically want to destroy it when you destroy the widgets over there, meaning when you remove it. Okay, so what we want to do, for the ellipse, like you saw in the example before, you draw the ellipse based on coordinates. So we just give the coordinates here. So we say draw the ellipse at this coordinate over there, and that would be the size. So that would be the width and the height of our ellipse. So we choose 4 because we're working for in our case. Obviously, you can change that. You can make a smaller or a bigger cycle. Then for every value we have on the y-axis, we want to just draw and cover them and just draw a cycle again for all of them. So that one is pretty straightforward. We basically take the previous x coordinate and we add our spacing. So that will give you the new x coordinate. And then we draw a line between the previous x value and the new one, and we do the same for the y. So that would basically draw a line from one point to the other, and so on. And then we draw our ellipse. So you can see here, and I didn't explain why I put -2. It's the same reason than on the slider. We want to make sure that the cycle we draw align to the point coordinates. And because our width and height are 4, we just divide by, we just like remove 2, so that give us the middle point. And hopefully I did not forget something while I was showing you the example. I did forget something. Just give me 2 minutes. I'm going to go back and do the code. Yeah, that's what I forgot. So you need to define, obviously, how you're going to draw your cycle on your line. Otherwise, it's going to fail. And here we go. So no matter we have a curve, so that's supposed to represent our row curve. So if we change here, nothing happens, and that's normal. But what we want to do, we want to basically draw a second curve, which will be our filtered one. And you can see here I put a curve tab, and I'm going to explain a bit why right after showing you what we have right now. So if we do that, you can see we have two curves, and one will react to any change made by any of the other widgets, like that. However, it's the same curve, so it's hard to tell what's raw and what's filtered. So we want to basically change the color. So we have one set of pen and one set of brush for our raw curve and our filtered one. So if we do that, you can see now that we have a different color for each. So we use the same method to draw it. We just change the color and which value we pass in. And that's it for UI actually. So we have something will react. We can save a filtered curve. We can open a file like that. And we can filter things. Oh, something I forgot, you may want to actually make sure that you update the curve previewer when you after you open a curve file. So you may want to basically call the update function here. There's a better way to do it, but that's a quick one as an example. So if you update, you will refresh the raw curve. Actually, for which you need another type of value. Okay, that should give us something slightly different. But we have one curve we can update. If we open our curve file, you can see it's going to update again. Okay. That's pretty much it for this session. That was a quick one just to show you basically how you can override the paint event and draw anything you want for the interface. And while I show you something to like change the appearance of a slider or display like a curve, you can use that to do anything. You can like create your own like a graph. You can like do like a calendar if you want. You can even use that to override the appearance of the default calendar. And you can go very, very, very far with that. Something I've done in the past was to create like my own widgets to create an interface to build interface. So like I create my own like various like various Q slider with various appearance, various button type with very custom appearance. So yeah, so we're going to take any questions. So put them on the question Q&A or on the chat, and I will reply to you. And again, like if you're not too sure right now, if you have any question, it's okay. You can always go and ask your question later on the Intro to Qt Slack channel that we have. And I'm going to put the path to the funnel interface, which is here. So there's some comment on it that you can go and look at that we didn't went through it necessarily in the talk, but that might be a bit useful. So the question is, when did you start learning Qt, and what is your favorite thing about using Qt? So I started to learn Qt about 12 years ago. Yeah, I think I was 12 years ago. Mostly to do tools for artists. So like I mentioned, I work in the movie industry, and we often need to do a very quick interface for artists. So Qt is very interesting for us. It's multi-platform, so we can do an interface in Linux or Windows. We don't really use Mac so much. It's mostly Windows or Linux. So the interfaces are portable between OSs. So it doesn't matter which artists use the tool, like the interface will work and be mostly the same or look like the OS based on what you do with it. And which is also my favorite thing. It's very, very quick and easy to do interface with it. So once you kind of know it, you know the various widgets you can use, and you can quickly create a front end like UI for any kind of code that you made, and give that to people who are not necessarily technical, who don't know how to run code, or you don't want to give them a command line tool either. It's also good to control what they, which parameters they put in your code. So something I've done in the past was to provide like a command line tool for a very technical user. But for the less technical one, create an interface who like pre-populate and preset some nice parameter for them. For example, like when dealing with like a model for a machine learning tool, he was like setting everything, every parameters for that model, like based on what they were setting in the UI. So if they were setting one option in the UI, it was good because I was able to basically change some other settings and obviously have an override for them if it was needed, and then use that to just run a machine learning tool. And part of the reason why I choose Qt over other frameworks, so you have GTK and other things like that, it's mostly because a lot of the software used in animation or VFX, so be it for 3D or compositing, actually use Qt. And as used, so they integrate very well. So I think we have a bit more time for more questions. We have 5 more minutes. If you have any question, feel free to ask them now. I'm going to wait a few more minutes just in case somebody have one. So Jennifer asked, which department in the movie industry you are in? I'm in a department called Pipeline, which basically we do a bit of everything. It ranges from developing like plugins like Deformer to developing like data pipeline to various tools. And actually, we do have a talk that was given last July, where me and another pipeline technical director went over what the role of a pipeline TD is. So if you are very curious, you can go to the Women Who Code YouTube channel, and you can see it there. Oh, thank you, Stephanie, for putting there. Actually, I think I do have the link to it. Just give me 2 minutes. Here we go. Here you will find all these sliders and link to the talk. Okay, I guess if nobody else have any question, we can have some parting words. So thank you everybody for attending the whole series and sticking up like to the whole like 5 sessions, especially the last few one which were a bit more advanced. And so I'm really happy that you all joined. If you have any question, you can send me an email. I'm also on the Intro to Qt Slack channel. And you can find the code again on Women Who Code Python GitHub account if you don't know where to find it. And I hope you enjoy the session. I'm looking forward to see all of the UIs you're going to make with Qt. That's going to be very interesting.